Hello everyone, I welcome you all to my channel Revealing Concepts. In today's class, we would be learning about the factors that would affect the temperature distribution across the earth. So let us start. The first one is the latitude. Now, what is latitude? Basically, as we have seen in the previous video, that our earth is divided as per the equator, and then you have your tropic of Cancer, you have the poles. So that is nothing but the latitudinal arrangement of the earth. So here we have sun, and then we have our earth. This is the equator and these are the poles. This is the North Pole and this is the South Pole. Now, our earth is tilted across its axis. It is not exactly straight, and it's in fact it's inclined at a particular angle. But for your understanding, let us assume that this is how the current arrangement of the sun and the earth is. Okay, because more or less the happenings are going to happen in this particular manner only. So now what happens is, whenever the sun is going to emit its rays, that which are called as the solar insolations, the distance that these rays have to cover with respect to different places on the earth is different. Like, for example, if the sun rays are supposed to travel to the equator, this is the distance, whereas the same sun rays, if they are supposed to travel to the north and the south poles of the earth, they have to travel a more distance as compared to that of the equator. So if the sun rays are supposed to travel from the sun to the equator and from the sun to the north pole and the south pole, it is clearly visible that towards the pole, or traveling towards the pole, they are supposed to travel a longer distance as compared to that of the equator. Now, while they are traveling, the rays that are there, they don't reach exactly of the same amount जितना यहाँ से निकला है. So the exact same amount is not reaching the earth. While they are traveling, the certain amount of heat, certain amount of energy is being dissipated along the path that it moves. So while it is moving from the sun to the earth, some amount is being dissipated. It has been released as it travels along the path. Now, the shorter the distance, the lesser the energy dissipation would be. So अगर हम logically भी सोचे, यहाँ से यहाँ जाने के लिए और यहाँ से यहाँ जाने के बीच में, this is the lesser distance. जितना कम distance होगा, उतना energy dissipation कम होगा as compared to that of the first one, as compared to that of the one where the rays are reaching from the sun to the poles. And that is why we can say कि the maximum solar insolation is being experienced by the equatorial region. Basically, जो ट्रॉपिक ऑफ कैंसर और ट्रॉपिक ऑफ कैप्रिकॉर्न के बीच में जो इक्वेटोरियल रीजन है, जो ट्रॉपिकल रीजन है, जो ट्रॉपिक्स है, वहां पे मैक्सिमम सोलर इंसुलेशन एक्सपीरियंस किया जाता है. एंड दीज आर द प्लेसेस which receive maximum amount of heat by the sun. Whereas the poles, they receive the minimum amount of solar insolation, because the distance that these sun rays have to travel is much more, and over the path the energy is being dissipated, the energy is being lost. Now here, if you see in the figure, you won't find utna difference, but we know that the distance between the sun and the earth is so much that these things do happen. And that is how we can say that there is the temperature difference. There is a difference in the temperature distribution because of latitudes. Now, the second one is the duration of the sunlight. We all know that during summers the days are longer than the nights are shorter, and in winters the nights are longer and the days are shorter. मतलब summer के time पे the sun is going to shine for a longer period of time, whereas in the winters the sun is not going to shine for a longer period of time. This is how the sun's role is during this different seasons. So if the sun is going to shine for a longer period of time, obviously in that particular season you're going to feel more heat as compared to that of winters. And that is how we can say that the duration of sunlight also plays a very important role in the distribution of the temperature on a daily basis. Third thing is the sunspots. Now what are the sunspots? Sunspots are basically those spots on the sun. ये ऐसे areas या regions होते हैं वहां पे the sun का temperature is bit lower as compared to the normal sun का temperature. Okay, तो ये जो है यहाँ पे let's say कि यहाँ पे अगर sun का temperature just for our understanding इतना कम नहीं होता, यहाँ पे अगर 100 डिग्री सेल्सियस है पूरे सन पे, तो सन स्पॉट्स पे द टेम्परेचर वुड बी लेट्स से 80 डिग्री सेल्सियस और 70 डिग्री सेल्सियस. सो दीज आर द स्पॉट्स जहां पे रिलेटिवली कम टेम्परेचर होता है. नाउ इट इज प्रीटी ऑब्वियस दैट इफ अगर ज्यादा सन स्पॉट्स होंगे इसका मतलब सन वुड बी हैविंग मोर कोल्डर रीजन्स ऑन इट, एंड दैट इज व्हाई सन वुड बी रिलीजिंग मे बी लेस इंटेंसिटी के सोलर रेडिएशंस, एंड दैट इज हाउ वी कैन से कि अगर सनस्पॉट ज्यादा है तो टेम्परेचर जो होगा वो सन का उतना ज्यादा नहीं होगा एज कंपेयर्ड टू इफ देयर आर लेस सनस्पॉट्स, एंड दैट इज हाउ सनस्पॉट्स प्ले अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल इन द टेम्परेचर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. Now the fourth point is transparency of the atmosphere. What do we exactly mean by transparency of the atmosphere? Here the word atmosphere comes into picture, and if you haven't watched my previous video on atmosphere, please do visit the video and see. You will understand that the atmosphere is made up of what all things. You would get a clear idea about what exactly is the atmosphere, its composition and everything. So if you haven't watched, please do visit the previous video to get a clear idea of what exactly atmosphere is. Now as we have seen, atmosphere is made up of different gases, dust particles, water vapors, etc. So atmosphere में ये दो चीजें हैं, you have clouds and you have PM. What do you mean by PM? That's particulate matter. Now if you remember, on a cloudy day, does the sun shines brightly? Are you able to see sun in the sky? It is there, but you cannot see the sun because it has been totally hidden under the clouds. It means that clouds are opaque. Clouds are opaque to the solar insolation. They do not allow the heat of the sun, the rays of the sun, the solar insolation to pass through them. So on a cloudy day, you won't be having sun rays in a bright and shine manner. And that is why we can say कि whenever there are clouds, the temperature would be not utna. The temperature would not be utna high as compared to that of a on a very bright day, or whenever there are no clouds, whenever there is a clear sky. Whereas you consider particulate matter also. Now particulate matter is nothing but the solid microscopic particles that exist in the atmosphere. What happens is these particulate matter, when which exist in the atmosphere, when the sun rays are going to is going to heat this particular particulate matter. Since it is solid in nature, some of them would be reflected back, some would be scattered, and that is how again here there would be loss of heat energy. Here there would be dissipation of the incoming solar radiation. So जितना ज्यादा particulate matter होगा उतना ज्यादा scattering होगा, उतना ज्यादा reflection होगा, और उतना कम सोलर इंसोलेशन सन के पास अर्थ के पास पहुंचेगा. एंड दैट इज व्हाई वी कैन से कि अगर पार्टिकुलेट मैटर भी ज्यादा होंगे, और इफ द क्लाउड्स आर आल्सो देयर, इफ इट्स अ क्लाउडी डे, देन द सोलर इंसोलेशन वुडंट बी दैट मच जितना उसको होना चाहिए. It would be much less, the temperature would be much less in those areas. In 1853 there was a huge volcanic eruption which took place, and there was lot of pyroclastic material which was being released through this volcanic eruption, as a result of which there was scattering of light that was being experienced, and hence this year is called as the year of no summer, क्योंकि उस टाइम पे स्कैटरिंग इतना हो गया था कि सोलर इंसुलेशन इतना अर्थ तक पहुंचा ही नहीं उस पर्टिकुलर एरिया में. You can read about it more on Google. Now next is altitude. Again, normal lapse rate is something which we have learned in the previous video. So as we move altitude wise up from the surface of the earth, as you go higher and higher, as the height increases, the temperature is going to decrease, and we have seen that for every 1 kilometer the temperature is going to reduce by 6.5 degrees Celsius, which is nothing but the normal lapse rate. So जितना surface पे temperature होगा उतना mountains के top पे नहीं होगा. So surface पे it would be much warmer as compared to that of the top of the mountains, and that is how temperature distribution is affected altitude wise. Next is the vegetation cover. Again, a very interesting topic. Now, what do you mean by vegetation cover? Vegetation cover is nothing but the trees that are there. So you only compare, we have a deserted place and a place which is full of trees. It's lush green trees that are covered in that particular area, which would be more colder. Of course, the region which is very much forested with trees, right? Now, why that is so? We all know that trees undergo a process called transpiration, in which they release water from their body. Now, when they release water from their body through the process of transpiration, the amount of water content in that region increases. Now, when I say the amount of water content in that region increases, it doesn't mean there would be rivers of water that would be flowing. Normally, to a certain extent, the amount of water content in that particular region where there are trees, where it's a forested land, वहां पे basically the water content in the atmosphere is going to increase. Now, wherever there is water, there would be evaporation that is going to take place. Now, evaporation is a process which is considered as a cooling process, जहां पे हम लोग liquid को gas में convert करते हैं by making use of the heat energy. Basically, heat energy has been consumed to convert the liquid water into gaseous state, and that is why evaporation जहां पे होता है वहां पे cooling effect experience किया जाता है. So wherever there are trees, wherever there is high vegetation cover, transpiration takes place, जिसकी वजह से evaporation होता है, and evaporation in itself is a cooling process. When we talk about condensation, condensation is opposite of evaporation. What do you mean by condensation? Condensation is nothing but turning the water vapor into the liquid state. Now, here when you want to turn a gaseous, when you want to convert a gas into a liquid again, that particular component has to release energy. Instead of absorbing energy, now it has to release energy so that it gets converted into liquid again. So if it is going to release energy into the atmosphere, it means that the temperature of the atmosphere is going to rise, and condensation in itself hence is a heating process. And that is why in deserted area we can say we feel heat much more as compared to that of regions which are forested, where there are huge number of trees. And that is why vegetation cover plays a very important role in maintaining a good temperature across the globe. Now, the next one is again, I have written the same point, condensation, as I've told you. I have explained the same point over here. The next is continentality or distance from the sea. What do you mean by continentality and distance from the sea? We all know that, normally if this is a sea, and after a certain point, you have the normal land. So this is land and this is your sea. Now, sea is something that, or water is something that would take up much time to heat up, and also it would take more time to cool down as compared to that of land. Land is something that gets heated up fast and it gets cooled down also very easily, but that is not the case with sea. So here if you see places which are closer to sea, there would be so much of temperature contrast. Like during the daytime, the sea would take time to get warmer, ठीक है, बट लैंड जो है वो बड़ा इजीली वार्म अप हो जाएगा. ओके, इट गेट्स हीटेड अप वेरी इजीली. सो ड्यूरिंग ड्यूरिंग द डे टाइम द टेम्परेचर ऑफ द सी वुडंट बी दैट मच, बट जैसे 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 दिन बढ़ता जाएगा, द टेम्परेचर ऑफ द सी इज गोइंग टू इंक्रीज एंड वही लैंड के ऊपर वही टेम्परेचर कम होता जाएगा. सो योर इफ यू सी बाय द एंड ऑफ द डे इट वुड हैपन कि लैंड कूल हो जाएगा और सी जो है वो ज्यादा वार्मर रहेगी. ठीक है, so there is always a temperature difference, okay, a temperature difference that would be maintained between the sea and the land. और यही temperature difference की वजह से the atmosphere or the climate of the regions that are closer to the seas are moderate in nature. वैसा क्यों होता है? अगर देखो during daytime if the temperature of the sea is not उतना as compared to that of land, इसका मतलब land ज़्यादा heat up हो चुका है, because that is the property of the land that it gets heated up faster, and sea जो है वो basically उतना heat up नहीं हुई है, right? So now what happens is here there are low pressure conditions that are created because the land is been heated up, whereas here there are high pressure conditions and the winds across the sea are not उतना warmer. So we all know that air always moves from high pressure to the low pressure region. So यहाँ पे जो winds है वो land के हिसाब से थोड़ा कम warmer होने की वजह से now the winds will move from high pressure region to the low pressure region, making the climate or making the temperature of the land a little bit moderate. इसकी वजह से जो regions sea के पास होते हैं, जो regions water bodies के पास होते हैं, वो basically एक moderate kind of temperature experience करते हैं, वहां पे एक्सट्रीम टेम्परेचर्स नहीं होते. बट व्हेन यू कंपेयर द सेम विद समथिंग which is landlocked, जिसके आजू बाजू में there is no water body, you will feel a lot of heating effect because वहां पे ये phenomena work ही नहीं करता. Land is going to get heated up during the day. People are going to feel so much of heat during the daytime, and रात के टाइम पे it would get cooled down so much that people are going to feel so much of coldness in the atmosphere. And इसकी वजह से we call it as continentality का effect, कि अगर कोई भी piece of land is not surrounded by a sea, is not surrounded by a water body, it is going to have extreme temperature. And अगर कोई piece of land or कोई area sea के पास है, then that would be moderate temperatures, and that is how temperature distribution is there with respect to the continentality. Now the ninth one is the ocean currents. What are these ocean currents? Ocean currents is basically the movement of the ocean water due to the इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ द विंड. सो जैसे विंड्स मूव करते हैं उसकी वजह से ओशन करंट्स मूव करते हैं, एंड उसकी वजह से जो है वो टेम्परेचर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन होता है. कैसे? सो इफ द ओशन करंट्स आर वार्म, okay, and here let's say there's a piece of land and which is surrounded by a sea, and if the ocean currents are warm and they are moving in this direction, of course the western part of this particular piece of land is going to experience a dry climate, क्योंकि अब यहाँ पे कौन से और currents हैं? They are these I'm so sorry, it is going to experience a moist climate because they are going to bring a these are the warm ocean currents which would be colliding with this piece of land. अगर warm ocean currents है, इसका मतलब वो ocean currents are carrying moisture in them, and that is why these warm ocean currents are going to actually impact the temperature of this particular piece of land. And similarly you have cold ocean currents. So cold ocean currents की वजह से basically क्या होता है? Deserts form होते हैं. वार्म ओशन करंट्स की वजह से रेनफॉल होता है, एंड कोल्ड ओशन करंट्स की वजह से डेजर्ट्स फॉर्म होते हैं, एंड दैट इज हाउ ओशन करंट्स प्ले एन इंपॉर्टेंट रोल इन द टेम्परेचर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. क्योंकि जहां पे डेजर्ट्स होंगे वहां पे टेम्परेचर ज्यादा होगा, जहां पे अच्छा रेनफॉल होगा वहां पे टेम्परेचर मेंटेन्ड रहेगा. एंड वार्म ओशन करंट्स लीड्स टू रेनफॉल, cold ocean currents leads to desert like conditions. Finally we have local winds. We all have recently seen the forest fires in North America, and one of the only cause for these local winds is the Santa Ana winds. Now Santa Ana winds are these dry winds which leads to forest fires in the California region, and these are the winds which are particularly experienced in the North American part only. Like ocean current is a phenomena which has been experienced globally, वर्ल्ड वाइड वी कुड से, बट ये जो सैंटा एना विंड्स है वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ नॉर्थ अमेरिका में है. वैसे ही हमारे इंडिया में इन दिल्ली वी हैव लूज दैट फ्लो ड्यूरिंग द समर सीजन. दीज आर ऑल्सो हीट कैरिंग लोकल विंड्स विच आर देयर, और वो स्पेसिफिक रीजन में ही हीटिंग इफेक्ट प्रोड्यूस करते हैं. सो दीज आर सर्टन फैक्टर्स. लाइक लोकल विंड्स एक ऐसा फैक्टर है जिसकी वजह से किसी पर्टिकुलर एरिया का टेम्परेचर बढ़ सकता है. एज आई टोल्ड यू, सैंटा एना विंड्स कॉजिंग द कैलिफोर्निया fires, and the loo which is circulated during the summer season in the region of Delhi. So these were certain factors which were affecting the temperature distribution across the earth, right from latitude, that is equator and polar. Then we have the duration of sunlight during the winter and the summer season. Sunspots अगर ज़्यादा होंगे तो टेम्परेचर या फिर वो सोलर रेडिएशंस का इंटेंसिटी कम होगी. ट्रांसपेरेंसी ऑफ द एटमॉस्फेयर इंक्लूड्स क्लाउड्स विच आर ओपेक एंड पार्टिकुलेट मैटर लीडिंग टू स्कैटरिंग ऑफ लाइट. देन यू हैव ऑल्टीट्यूड वाइज नॉर्मल लैप्स रेट होता है जिसकी वजह से एज द हाइट इंक्रीजेस टेम्परेचर डिक्रीजेस. अगर वेजिटेशन कवर ज्यादा होगा, ट्रांसपिरेशन होगा जिसकी वजह से इवेपोरेशन होगा. इवेपोरेशन इज अ कूलिंग प्रोसेस, but condensation is a heating process. Then you have continentality or distance from the sea. Lands which are closer to the sea experience moderate temperature, but the regions which are landlocked and which do not have water bodies around them experience extreme temperatures. Ocean currents, like the warm and cold ocean currents, have their own role to play. And finally, we saw the local winds like Santa Ana winds and the lows that we could experience in the Delhi region. So that's all for today. If you have any doubts, you can post them down in the comment section. See you soon in the next video. Thank you.